Emma Reynolds was 35, a successful marketing consultant living in Seattle, married to Mark for almost 10 years. On paper, her life looked perfect. A stable marriage, a modest but beautiful house, and a routine that made her feel secure. Yet every morning, when she looked in the mirror, she saw a woman who had stopped smiling with her eyes. Her husband was kind, responsible, and loyal. But lately, their love felt like a familiar habit instead of something alive. Their evenings were predictable. Mark came home from work, they ate dinner in silence while the television played softly in the background. And then he would fall asleep on the couch. Emma used to fill the quiet with books or music. But even those no longer distracted her from the emptiness that grew like a quiet ache inside her chest. One Thursday night, as rain tapped gently against the window, Emma's phone buzzed. It was a message from an old friend, Natalie, someone she hadn't seen in nearly a decade. "Hey, stranger. We're having a mini college reunion this Saturday. Just me, Jason, and Tyler so far. You better come. It's been forever." Emma stared at the message, her fingers hesitating. The names took her back to her early 20s, those carefree years when life was all energy and laughter. When they thought they could do anything. Natalie had always been the adventurous one. Jason was the charmer with too much confidence, and Tyler quiet, observant. Always the one who noticed what others didn't. For a long minute, Emma didn't reply. Then she typed back, "I don't know if I can make it. Been busy with work and life." Almost instantly, Natalie responded, "You've been saying that for years. Just one night, Em. No excuses." Emma smiled, shaking her head. Maybe it wouldn't hurt. Maybe a night away from her routine could help her breathe again. She typed, "Okay, one night." By Saturday evening, the city glowed under a silver drizzle. Emma spent longer than usual getting ready. Not for anyone in particular, but for herself. She slipped into a soft navy dress, curled her hair lightly, and looked in the mirror. For a second, she saw the girl she used to be, the one who laughed loudly and believed in second chances. The restaurant Natalie chose was downtown, warm lights, soft music, and a hum of weekend chatter. When Emma walked in, Natalie waved excitedly from across the room. "There she is. Look at you." Emma laughed as Natalie hugged her tightly. "You haven't changed," she said. "Neither have you," Natalie replied, her smile wide but her eyes observant. "You look steadier, but maybe too steady." Before Emma could answer, Jason appeared. He looked older, a few gray strands at his temples, but his grin was the same. "Emma Reynolds, I don't believe it. You still make every room brighter. Still a charmer, huh?" she teased, shaking his hand. Then Tyler rose from his seat quietly. "Hey," he said softly, his voice deep and calm. His presence felt different, grounded but distant. The four of them sat down, and just like that, years melted away. They talked about college, old professors, bad dorm food, wild nights that now felt like someone else's memories. Laughter came easily, almost too easily. For a moment, Emma forgot the life waiting for her back home. Over dinner, Natalie mentioned how she'd divorced last year. "I realized I'd been living beside someone, not with them," she said, taking a slow sip of wine. "I wanted to feel alive again." Emma's hand froze on her glass. Those words hit something inside her. Tyler noticed. "You okay?" he asked quietly. Emma smiled weakly. "Yeah, just thinking." Jason leaned forward, his tone playful. "Emma's always been the deep thinker. Remember when she used to spend hours sketching by the lake?" She laughed softly. "Those were good days." "Maybe they can be again," Tyler said suddenly, his voice steady but meaningful. Their eyes met for a heartbeat. Too long. Later, that night, they left the restaurant and wandered through the nearby park. The city lights shimmered through the wet leaves, and everything smelled of rain and memories. Natalie walked ahead with Jason, their laughter echoing, while Emma and Tyler lagged behind. "It's strange," Emma said softly, "how years pass and you don't even realize you've stopped feeling." Tyler looked at her. "I think feeling doesn't stop. We just forget how to listen to it." His words lingered. She didn't reply, but something in her chest tightened. When they reached the cars, Natalie turned to her. "We're planning a weekend at the lake house next week. Just the four of us. Like old times." "You have to come." Emma hesitated. "I don't know if Mark would." "Oh, come on," Natalie interrupted with a grin. "You need a break?" A little laughter. "You've earned it." Tyler glanced at her but said nothing. Emma smiled faintly. "We'll see." When she got home that night, the house was dark except for the glow of the television. Mark was asleep on the couch, the remote still in his hand. She stood there for a long moment, just watching him. He looked peaceful, the way he always did, but distant, like they were living two separate stories under one roof. She went upstairs, changed quietly, and sat on the edge of the bed. Her phone buzzed again. It was Natalie. "Next Friday. Don't cancel," Emma typed back. "I'll think about it." Then Tyler's name appeared beneath it. A simple message. "It was good seeing you tonight." She stared at it, her heart beating faster than she wanted to admit. After a long pause, she replied, "You too." She set the phone down, turned off the lamp, and lay awake, staring into the dark. She told herself it was just friendship, nostalgia, nothing more. But in her heart, she knew something had shifted, something she couldn't name. Something dangerous and alive, outside. The rain kept falling softly against the window, like the sound of time moving forward, and deep inside, Emma knew this wasn't just a reunion. It was the beginning of a test she didn't even realize she'd have to face. The following Friday arrived faster than Emma expected. The week had been a blur. Work meetings, quick dinners, and a quiet tension at home that neither she nor Mark talked about. He'd been distracted lately, often working late or scrolling through his phone during dinner. Emma didn't complain. She didn't even ask where his mind went. Somewhere between the years of comfort and distance. She had learned that silence was easier than confrontation. But that night, as she packed a small bag for the weekend trip, guilt tugged at her chest. She wasn't lying exactly. She'd told Mark she was going for a college reunion weekend with old friends. Still, she hadn't told him who those friends were. "Where's the reunion again?" he asked, half distracted, while tying his tie for an early meeting. "Up near the lake," she said, keeping her tone light. "Just a small gathering." "Natalie's idea?" He nodded without much interest. "Sounds good. You need a break." She smiled faintly. "Yeah, maybe I do." The drive to the lake house took nearly 3 hours. The road wound through tall pine trees, and the late spring air smelled of damp soil and blooming wildflowers. As she neared the house, she felt a strange mix of excitement and unease. Natalie's voice echoed before she even got out of the car. "Emma, you made it." The lake house was beautiful. Old wood, wide windows, and a back porch that looked out over the still silver water. Jason was grilling on the patio, humming to himself. While Tyler was setting out plates on the table, look who finally decided to join the fun. Jason teased, waving a spatula. "We were about to send a search party." Emma laughed. "I almost turned around twice." "Good thing you didn't," Natalie said, handing her a glass of lemonade. "This weekend is about forgetting the world." For a while, it felt like that was exactly what they did. The group spent the afternoon talking, cooking, and laughing about things that didn't matter. The air was filled with music and memories, and for the first time in years, Emma felt light again. As the sun began to set, the lake shimmered gold. They moved to the porch with wine and blankets, watching the water turn pink and violet under the fading sky. "Remember senior year?" Jason said, smiling. "The camping trip by that broken pier." "Oh, don't remind me," Natalie laughed. "You tried to cook fish on a stick and nearly burned down the whole forest." Tyler chuckled quietly. "And Emma had to save the day, as always." Emma smiled softly. "I think that was the first time I realized none of us were really adults yet." They laughed, but Tyler's eyes lingered on her for a moment longer. That look, calm, steady, unreadable, made her heart shift again. Later that night, Natalie and Jason decided to take a walk down the trail by the water. "You two coming?" she called out. Tyler shook his head. "We'll stay here. I'll clean up." When they were gone, the air fell quiet except for the sound of crickets and the soft waves lapping against the shore. Emma helped him clear the table, folding napkins and stacking glasses. "You always were the responsible one," he said quietly. She smiled faintly. "Maybe too responsible." He glanced at her, his eyes serious. "You seem different." "Sad? Maybe." She didn't answer right away. Instead, she stared out at the lake. "Do you ever feel like you built a life so carefully that you forgot to live it?" Tyler leaned on the railing beside her. "Every day. After my divorce, I thought I'd start over. But I realized I'd spent years giving so much to someone who stopped seeing me. I didn't even recognize myself anymore." His words hit something deep inside her. She looked down, her voice soft. "That sounds familiar." They stood in silence for a while. The world felt still, like even time had stopped to listen. When she finally spoke again, her voice trembled slightly. "Sometimes I miss the person I used to be, the one who wasn't afraid to take chances." Tyler's gaze was steady. "Maybe she's still there, just waiting for you to notice her again." Emma's breath caught. For a moment she felt something awaken, not attraction, not desire, but a raw human ache for connection. Then Natalie's voice called from the trail, and the spell broke. Emma stepped back quickly, her heart racing. "We should get some rest," she said quietly. "Yeah," he replied. "Good night, Emma." That night, she lay awake in her room, listening to the rain tapping against the roof. She thought about Tyler's words, about her marriage, and about the hollow space she had learned to ignore. She wasn't unhappy, but she wasn't living either. The next morning, they made breakfast together. The atmosphere felt lighter, more comfortable. Jason cracked jokes, Natalie danced barefoot in the kitchen. And for the first time in years, Emma laughed until her cheeks hurt. Later, the group decided to go canoeing on the lake. The sun shimmered on the water as they paddled out, the air filled with the sound of birds and distant laughter. For a moment, everything felt simple again. No worries, no guilt, just peace. When the sun began to dip, they returned to shore. Jason built a small fire, and they sat around it as the sky deepened into twilight. The warmth of the flames made everyone relax, and the conversation turned to love. The kind that changes people. "Do you think love can fade?" Natalie asked suddenly, her tone reflective. "Love doesn't fade," Tyler said quietly. "People just stop tending to it." Emma looked at him, and he looked back. There was no judgment in his eyes, only understanding. She wanted to look away, but COULDN single quotes to Jason broke the silence with a laugh. "You two always did get too deep for me. Love's messy." "That's all I know." Everyone laughed, and the moment passed. But deep inside, Emma knew something had shifted again. That night, when she went inside to get her sweater, she found her phone buzzing. It was a message from Mark. "Hope you're having fun. Don't stay up too late." She stared at the message for a long time. The words were kind but distant, like a note left on a refrigerator. She typed back, "I'm fine. See you Sunday." She set the phone down and stood by the window, watching the reflection of the fire outside. Tyler was sitting alone now, staring into the flames, his face thoughtful for a long time. She just watched and realized she wasn't the only one trying to fill an empty space. When she finally stepped back outside, Tyler looked up. Their eyes met once more, a quiet understanding passing between them. Neither of them spoke. They didn't need to. The fire crackled softly, and the night wrapped around them like a secret neither wanted to say aloud. And in that stillness, Emma realized the truth she had been avoiding. She wasn't searching for love. She was searching for herself. The rain began early Sunday morning. It fell in steady streams, tapping softly against the windows of the lake house. Emma stood by the window, a cup of coffee in her hand, watching the gray ripples move across the water. She felt calm but restless, as if the storm outside had found its echo inside her. The weekend had been beautiful and heavy all at once. There had been laughter, warmth, and the quiet comfort of being seen again. But beneath it all lay an unspoken truth, something that neither she nor Tyler dared to name. Natalie entered the kitchen, her hair in a loose bun, eyes sleepy. "You're up early," she said, reaching for a mug. "Couldn't sleep," Emma replied softly. Natalie smiled knowingly. "I get it. Sometimes silence is louder than noise." Emma looked at her, wondering if Natalie saw through her calm expression. She probably did. Old friends always did. By noon, the rain cleared. They packed up their bags, cleaned the kitchen, and loaded the cars. The air felt heavy with the weight of goodbyes. Same time next year. Jason asked, smiling as he closed the trunk. "Definitely," Natalie said, hugging Emma tightly. "Don't disappear again, okay?" Emma smiled faintly. "I won't." When she turned to Tyler, words failed her. He just gave a small nod. "Take care, Emma. You too." Their hands brushed for a second, accidental, brief, but enough to make her heart tighten. Then he walked away, and she stood there, realizing that something in her had quietly changed forever. The drive home felt longer than before. The closer she got to her neighborhood, the more her thoughts tangled. What did she want from her life now? What did she want from her marriage? Mark wasn't cruel or careless. He was just absent. But maybe she had been too. When she stepped through the front door, the house smelled faintly of cedar and lemon cleaner. Mark was in the living room, sitting with his laptop open. "Hey," he said, smiling politely. "How was the trip?" "It was good," she said, hanging up her coat. "Peaceful? Glad to hear it." He closed his laptop and stood. "Dinner later?" She nodded, though her voice caught slightly. "Sure." That evening, as they ate, she watched him, the way he spoke about work, the small lines around his eyes, the comfort in his routine. He wasn't a bad man, just a distant one. And maybe, she realized, she'd let that distance grow too wide. After dinner, Mark went upstairs to make a call. Emma sat at the table for a while, her mind a storm. Then she quietly followed him. When he hung up, she said softly, "Mark, can we talk?" He looked surprised but nodded. "Of course. What's going on?" She hesitated, searching for words. "I think somewhere along the way, we stopped seeing each other. We became comfortable, maybe too comfortable. And I'm not blaming you. I think I let it happen too." He frowned slightly. "Is this about the trip?" "No," she said quickly. "It's about everything. About us, I miss feeling connected to you." Mark exhaled slowly and sat down on the bed. For a long moment, he didn't speak. Then he said, "You're right. I've been distracted. Work, stress. I thought I was doing enough just by being here." Emma's throat tightened. "You were here. Yes, but it felt like you weren't." He nodded slowly. "I know. And maybe you weren't here either." She froze at his words. Not because they were cruel, but because they were true. They sat in silence. Two people surrounded by years of love and distance. Finally, he spoke again. "Do you still want this? Us?" Her eyes filled with tears. "I do. But I want it to mean something again." Mark looked at her for a long time, then reached for her hand. It was a simple gesture, but it felt like a beginning. "Then maybe we start over," he said quietly. "Not from the beginning, just from right now." Something broke inside her, not in pain, but in relief. She nodded, her hand tightening around his. "I'd like that." The following weeks felt different. Not perfect, not easy, but real. They began talking more, walking together after dinner, even cooking on weekends. Sometimes silence still filled the room, but it wasn't the cold kind anymore. It was peaceful. One afternoon, Emma received a text from Natalie. "Tyler got a new job in Seattle. He asked about you." Emma stared at the message for a long time. She didn't reply immediately. She didn't know what to say. Eventually, she typed back, "Tell him I wish him the best." That night, she went for a walk by herself. The air was cool, the sun dipping low beyond the neighborhood trees. She thought about Tyler, the calmness in his voice, the truth in his eyes. He had reminded her of something she'd forgotten, that love wasn't about excitement or escape. It was about being seen. And in some strange way, she realized, it helped her see herself again. When she returned home, Mark was on the couch watching an old movie. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah," she said softly, sitting beside him. "I just needed some air." He smiled. "You've seemed lighter lately." She looked at him, her eyes gentle. "Maybe I am. Maybe I finally stopped running from my own life." He didn't fully understand what she meant, but he didn't need to. He just reached for her hand, and she let him. Months passed. Summer turned to fall. Life became simple again, but in a way that felt new. Emma started painting again, something she hadn't done in years. She met Natalie for lunch every few weeks, and sometimes they'd laugh about old times, letting nostalgia warm them without holding them back. One afternoon, while cleaning her closet, Emma found the small photo album from college, pictures of them by the lake, laughing, wild, free. There was one photo of her and Tyler sitting side by side, both smiling at the camera. She touched the picture gently, a small smile forming. It wasn't regret she felt, it was gratitude. Some people come into your life not to stay, but to help you remember who you are. She slipped the photo back into the album and closed it. When Mark came home that evening, she greeted him with a smile. "You're home early," she said. "Traffic was light," he replied, hanging his coat. "Want to go out for dinner?" She hesitated, then smiled warmly. "I'd love that." As they walked out together, the sky glowed with the soft colors of sunset. Emma felt something she hadn't in a long time: contentment. Not because everything was perfect, but because she was no longer lost. She had faced the truth, walked through the quiet storm of her own heart, and come out whole. And as she slipped her arm through Mark's, she whispered silently to herself, "Maybe love doesn't fade. It just waits for us to find it again."